All right, we are on air. Happy August, everybody. It's now August 3rd. This is a meeting to talk about development tasks for Backdrop CMS on other related things. First on our agenda today, PMC update. We have a contract from the Software Freedom Conservancy. Everyone on the PMC should have a copy that they are signing and returning to our lawyer. If you haven't done that yet, do that. I haven't done it yet. I need to do that today. But as soon as we get that signed, then we should be underway. I think the next step is then to make some changes to our PMC to make sure that we're in line with their guidelines of who should be on it, and then we should be covered at that point, which will be great. Then we get to work out the details of like how to start accepting tax-deductible donations, which will be awesome. Okay, community-wise, we have a new member in Backdrop Contrib this week who's offered to help with documentation to start with and then wants to get into code later. So that's great. Thank you, Steve, for offering your services. We'll try and figure out how to get you on board with whatever you need. In the world of Contrib, there are a ton of new projects that have come out this month already. In particular, I want to highlight Coder Review and Coder Upgrade. So anyone who's working on upgrading from Drupal 7 might benefit from having those. Those are based on the Drupal Coder modules that everybody knew and loved. So Doc Loma has been working on those. Thank you, Doc Loma, for making everybody else's lives easier, again, as usual. And then we also have a new project, SEO Meta, or maybe a new release for the project SEO Meta. So if you want a simpler meta tag solution than meta tag module, SEO Meta is the smaller, lighter weight option. All right, so next on the list is Backdrop CMS itself. Since last week, Jeff and I figured out how to run a regular expression that would automatically link Drupal.org issues to like a git command that'll give you all of the recent commits. So now we have a really easy way to create lists of commits that have happened to Drupal that we need to track and compare for Backdrop. And so now there are a ton of new issues tagged with the 172 milestone that'll just kind of help keep us up to date with what's been going on with Drupal lately. We've missed the last few Drupal releases, and so we've got a couple of meta issues we need to sort through. There's a lot of pull requests out there. We need a lot more pull requests. Those are generally pretty easy to apply to Backdrop. So if anyone wants some nice kind of low-hanging fruit issues, that might be a good place to start. So check the 1.72 milestone to find those, but they are issues number 2013, 2774, 2775, and 2776, and that should get us up to date with everything that Drupal has now.
I started picking up some of these last weekend. I might do that this weekend again, but I was wondering, we have some contributed modules that have also been merged into Backdrop Core. Maybe we should follow up the changelog these contrib modules because we want to be in par with them.
Yeah, so
I thought of, for example, yes, stuff like that.
We should probably create a list somewhere, somewhere public, like maybe on like backdropcms.org or something that just contains like, these are all of the modules that have been put in Backdrop Core. That's something that people have asked me for several times, and I'm surprised we don't have documented somewhere. That would be good to have. And then also every time there's a new release of those projects, we should be creating metas just like we have for core that contain updates to those projects. I don't have a good process for how we should handle that. I think having the list of those projects would be a good first step, and then seeing it, because a lot of those projects, when they get moved into core, they get significantly changed. Like they usually don't remain separate modules. They actually become part of core, and so all the function names change. And so patches from the contrib versions won't cleanly apply to core, not as well anyway as Drupal 7 patches apply to core. But I think it would be good to keep our eye on what's going on in those issue queues as well, just to make sure that if there are any bugs that are getting fixed and we can benefit from those bug fixes, we should do that. But I don't know that we necessarily need like a meta issue with each commit so much as we need somebody who can review everything that's happened and see if those changes are relevant. Jeff just linked link module commits from Drupal 8. So these definitely aren't going to apply to Backdrop. It might be better to look, rather than looking at commits, we just might need a different format for this list that's like just the issues in general, where we can try and figure out if the issues are relevant. And then if we are, we can look at the code and see how we might come up with a similar solution, because the commits aren't going to be relevant, especially if they're to Drupal 8. We aren't going to be able to port those to Backdrop, and the patches won't apply either. So it's going to be a little bit harder to keep these things in sync, but it does look like they're doing a lot of work we should find a way to benefit from one way or another. Open to feedback on how to handle that, if anyone has any ideas. Would it also be worth looking at what's going on with link module in Drupal 7? Since we're using link as an example here.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I think the stuff that like a lot of these issues might be issues that are only relevant for 8, and there might be other stuff that have issues that are only relevant for 7, and we want to make sure that we get those and don't miss those too. So I don't know if maybe we could do like a I don't know how to get the lists we need of what would be useful, but like trying to find all of the Drupal 8 issues that are tagged with like needs backport might be one way to do it. To pull out the stuff in here that we want for 7 or for Backdrop. Could be tricky. We'll just have to look at them, figure it out. Okay, steps here. We need to create, I'm just going to make notes in this agenda, create a list. Create a list of all of the contrib modules that were moved in the core. Then we also need to create a list or just stay on top of new releases. We don't know how yet, but we'll figure it out. All right. Okay. So next up are things we're working on for 1.8. There's obviously a whole bunch more issues in the 1.7 queue. Some of them are bugs, some of them are usability improvements. If anyone has any time or interest in working on those, you're definitely welcome to grab them. Anything that gets marked, reviewed, and tested by community is likely to go in regardless of whether it is a bug fix or not. So if you want to start working on those, that would be great. However, those are, they can also, bug fix releases can get fixed at any time, so they're not particularly urgent. Other things we're working on for Backdrop 1.8, but we should mention that code freeze for Backdrop 1.8 is September 1st, which is now less than a month away. So usually what that means is that right now we have kind of a pickup in the amount of work that's happening on Backdrop core, and then we'll have a whole bunch of people who will work like crazy for like a month, and then we'll see what gets in at the end of the month. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if you guys are all excited, but like, what's gonna happen? I know I started working on a couple of issues related to media lately that I'm hoping to see get in, and hopefully I meant to put up one last week. I'll try and do it today on how to upload a file separate from the file field interface, and it also includes edit for editing existing files. Hopefully I'll get that posted today, and then that'll be ready for review, and we'll try and kind of inch closer towards a full comprehensive media solution, which I think is going to be killer for Backdrop. So media stuff. There is also issue number 2632, which is how to create fieldable file entity bundles. So this would, for example, allow you to include a caption or a photo credit along with an image you upload, or a publication date along with PDF. So if you wanted to add fields to files as uploaded, which is pretty common use case, that is coming soon. Number 2632, I think, needs some more feedback as well as some more review. There's a great first draft of that feature there. And I think if we could get some more people looking at it, that might be able to get more progress made on it. Other than media library stuff, we're also working on expanding the abilities of the layout system in core. Layout relationships, number 2134, is something that Doc Wilmot started working on, I think, 2 releases ago. And it was originally just kind of a rough draft to see how it would work. Nate looked at the pull request and loved it and wanted to put it in the last release. And Doc Wilmot's like, no, it's not ready yet. So I think what we just need on that is more testers to figure out if it is indeed not ready. Can we catch any problems with it ahead of time, so we don't put it in and then discover after the fact that it is not ready. So if somebody wants to review that, we can figure out where the hiccups might be, and we can probably get that in for 1.8 because it was almost ready for 1.7. We just need more confidence in the code that's there.
Sorry, which feature was this that we're talking about?
Layout relationship. So when you're creating a layout, if you wanted to do something like join a node to its author so that you would have access to all of the fields on the user entity as well as all of the fields on the node itself. There's already a relationship in the underlying structure of the classes. There's just nothing on the user interface to be able to hook them up. And so building the user interface and hooking them up then might reveal problems with the underlying relationships. So we just want to make sure that we test that pretty well. But it should enable a lot of really cool things in the front end. If we
so where are the relationships? In the entity definitions?
It's in the layout.
The layout. Okay.
So right now there's this context. So if you're on like a node page, there's a context of node, or if you're on a user page, there's a context of user. This basically allows you to add a second context through a relationship. So user author relationship or node reference relationship. And it's the same context that was available in panel. So how you could have multiple contexts and you could assign them, but we didn't have a user interface for that in Backdrop yet. And so this should add that.
Is this going to be an arbitrary thing or just for like core entity types? Like,
so it's set up to be, I don't know. I think right now there aren't a lot of relationships that you can use because there aren't a lot of relationships in core.
Yeah. I mean, because this sort of ties in with like reference stuff because
yeah,
it's things referencing other things, but this seems like just adding these sort of hard-coded references that we have, like the UID fields and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would imagine that this first version probably just hard codes.
Yeah.
Most common, like node has taxonomy term, or doesn't provide a lot of options, but it should be like a good indicator of how we could extend it in the future.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it's raising the bar on what the reference module needs to do too, because now that people be like expecting to be able to oh, I want to add the context of this user or this one node that the other node is referencing or something like that, or the file. And
I don't think there's actually very much that's responsible for the underlying entities to have to do. I think what the layout system does is just load based on an entity ID. So if there's already an entity ID available in a field, that should be pretty, there shouldn't be much required.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I haven't looked at it.
It's another integration to do. Okay.
Yeah. Losing my agenda. Sorry, everyone. Okay, so layout relationships, issue number 2134. We'd love to have more people look at it. I think the initial implementation is fairly straightforward and fairly simple, but it would be a indicator of what's to come. And then the other issue that's currently targeted for 1.8 is configuration translation, issue number 704. Nate has a pretty solid idea of how he wants to handle that. He's looking for feedback, especially from people who might have multilingual sites, about how they want to see that happen. I know he's planning on working on that. I don't know if there's any code there to see yet. I think it's just a theoretical idea. That's all that's currently scheduled for 1.8. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other issues in the 1.8 milestone. If you're looking for things to work on that aren't necessarily quite as heady as those three, but any of those that don't get done will get bumped to 1.9 or possibly 2.0. Although I would guess that if we don't have a plan for 2.0, when 1.8 comes out, we will have a 1.9. Don't think we have enough time to figure out 2.0 in one release. Let's see. If anyone's curious about our 2.0 plans, we've got, I thought we created a new issue last week for it, or found one, but I didn't link it in the agenda, so sorry about that. We have a couple of things on the roadmap that we might like to see in 2.0, things like automatic updates, things like importing from WordPress, or things like supporting both 1.x and 2.x contrib projects at the same time. All of those are theoretical at the moment. If you want to try importing nodes, though, there is a module called Bien, or BIEN module, that will let you import existing content in contrib today. So if you want to give that a shot, that could give you an idea of what the future might be like. There's also a project called Curator, which is what we're probably going to be using for automatic updates. So if you want to give that a look, it's currently platform agnostic and should, in theory, work on Drupal as well as Backdrop, and maybe any other open sourcey PHP project as well. Sorry, this meeting has been a little disjointed, guys. Is there anything else you want to talk about today that wasn't on the agenda that you thought of while we were going through the agenda? Okay. Well, if not, I have a lot of fun stuff to do today in media land, and I'm happy to jump off and do that. If anyone thinks of anything that we should talk about, you can feel free to jump in our Gitter channel. Just to reiterate, there's really only one Gitter channel where Backdrop people are talking right now, and it is backdrop/backdrop-issues. It's linked from our resources page on backdropcms.org if you need help finding it. And you can also ask, oh, thanks, Jeff, for updating the agenda. The meta discussion for Backdrop 2 is issue number 2704, if anyone wants to jump in on that. But yeah, other than that, we'll see you in issue Q. All right, thanks for joining, guys. See you next week, if not before.